Yo guys, it's Ashimon here. Today I'm bringing you this video to teach you how to peek in CSGO. I'm going to be talking about peek's advantage, counter-strafing, peeking with an AWP, as well as when to peek and how to peek. Well, with that being said, let's get straight into it. Hey guys, I'm here on Nuke, and now I'm going to be showing you the idea of counter-strafing. What is counter-strafing? Counter-strafing is the idea of velocity being reduced down to 0 as fast as possible. If I'm running in one direction, as you can see in the top left, I'm running with constant velocity. But as soon as I let go of a key, drops gradually to 0. The idea of counter-strafing is pressing the opposite key so that it goes to 0 a lot quicker, and that way I have a better chance of getting a kill when I peek into an angle. Let's say I'm peeking main to secret. If I'm pressing A and letting go, there's a lot of time between me letting go and me actually being at the certain velocity where I can shoot accurately. So what I need to do in order to get the velocity down a lot faster is to counter strafe and strafe in the opposite direction. So here I'm pressing A to strafe. So in order to counter strafe, I have to let go of A and then press D so that it goes down to 0 a lot quicker. You see that? It went down almost immediately. Let's say I'm running at maximum velocity with M4. It's still very quick. And this is the idea of counter strafing. And now I want to introduce to you a second idea, which is crosshair placement. So when we're strafing into an angle and peeking, where should our crosshair be? It should be at the head. It should be at the head. We want to get a kill as fast as possible. If someone's holding us from door, and they're aiming at head height, which is very typical, and we peek into them and we're aiming at the body, even if we shoot first, they're going to kill us first because they're aiming at the head. So crosshair placement is something you have to train, and I'm going to link some workshop maps in the description to train this, but it just comes mainly from experience. You need to be aiming at head height practically all the time. Unless you're AWPing, aiming at head height is vital to be able to get a kill as fast as possible and not die before the enemy shoots you. But with crosshair placement, there's a lot of nuance to it. You can't just preemptively aim at an angle and clear it all the time. Look at this angle. If I clear this angle here, close to the door, and then I peek deep, T could be standing anywhere on this back door and they'd have an advantage on me. Why? Because I haven't seen them yet and I haven't positioned my crosshair on them. If they're holding like normal and I'm just peeking deep and looking straight past them and not aiming at them, they have the advantage. So how do we counter this? Well, there's a second different type of crosshair placement where you get your crosshair and you hold it close to the wall as possible. So instead of peeking straight out and pre-aiming, I'm clearing every single off angle against this back wall. And you need to understand when and where you can do this. And that comes purely from experience. If you're to pre-aim every single angle, there's going to be most of the angles on this back wall you're going to miss. Because a lot of CTs play multitudes of off angles against this back wall. Because it's very powerful. Because you can switch from watching hut to watching door very quickly. So pre-aiming here, let's say pre-aiming backside, and then CT vent instantly, is almost never a good idea. Because they can play anywhere along here and they have the advantage on you. So that's something you need to train and practice for experience to understand when to pre-aim and when to actually clear angles. The next idea I want to introduce to you is peeker's advantage. Peeker's advantage is maybe something you've heard from like 3Clicks Philip talking about it in terms of latency. So in CS, if you're playing online, your ping actually affects who has the advantage on a peek. Not 100% because the difference is so small, but in terms of especially AWPing, the person peeking who has high, if you're peeking and you have higher ping, you have the advantage on someone who's holding you. But the actual advantage that I want to get into, which is more in depth and more fundamental, is the idea of when you should and where you shouldn't peek. Let's say I'm here behind this box and someone peeks me from ramp. Who has the advantage? I do, at the box. Why? Because I'm further away from the angle than the guy on ramp is. If you're further away from an angle, you have the advantage in CS, because you will see them first. Also, if someone's peeking from ramp, it's a left shoulder peek. A left shoulder peek, where the wall is on the right and I peek with my left shoulder first, is always going to be a disadvantage to the peeker, because the way the player model is designed. The player model is designed so that your gun is on the right hand side, and also more of your body's on the left, because you're kind of tilted. And that means that if you're peeking out with your left shoulder first, you will be seen first. Whereas if you're peeking with the right shoulder first, you have the advantage, because you will see them at approximately the same time. Because your gun, it actually shoots from the center of the gun and not actually from like the barrel. So this is why sometimes if you're like close to a wall, you can kind of like shoot through the wall, even though your like crosshair's not there. And it's just really weird mechanic to get a grasp of, but it's a very fundamental idea of CS. That peeking when the wall's on your left and you're peeking with your right shoulder, you're always at an advantage compared to when you're peeking with your left shoulder. Like, let's say here, on door. Because they will see you first. It's a disadvantage peek. So the two things you have to keep in mind is which side you're peeking from and how close the wall is to you. Let's say I'm peeking the guy door and I'm peeking from this wall close to me. If he's holding from door, he has the advantage because he sees me first. He's further away. And this is a very fundamental idea of CS and something you all need to understand. The next topic I want to introduce to you is AWPing. I don't know why I can't buy an AWP, but let's just reset it. Really weird. Alright, there we go. We have an AWP now. AWP peeking. AWP peeking, there's a lot more nuance and there's a lot more variety in how you can peek. The most common way to peek with an AWP is crouch peeking. So you just come crouched out, just holding the angle, doing almost what we're doing with the rifle, where you're just hugging the wall with your crosshair. And as well, with AWPing, what you're going to understand is peeking with an AWP is at such a bigger advantage than it is to peek with a rifle. If I'm peeking with an AWP, my maximum velocity is 100 units per second, as you can see in the top right. It's 100 units per second. So that means that it's quicker for me to stop and actually shoot than with an AWP than it is to stop and shoot with a rifle. So this is why AWPers will go for more confident peeks and they'll use their spawns more rather than riflers. Because it's just easier to peek with an AWP than it is with a rifle. So counter strafing with the AWP is a lot quicker. You get to 0 velocity a lot sooner than you would with a rifle. Another type of AWP peek is the jump peek, which isn't very common nowadays, but it was very common like a couple of years ago when it was in meta. So you jump around a corner and crouch in midair and peek around an angle. This way you catch an enemy off by surprise. It's almost the AWP equivalent of pre-aiming. But also it's very risky and there's a lot of risk involved and there's only a very few amount of angles you actually want to peek like that from. The reason that people jump peek is because if you look at velocity, your velocity is quite high when you're jumping with an AWP. And you keep your velocity. So if I'm scoped and I'm peeking, the velocity is 100. But if I jump and add like 200, it stays 200. And that way I can maintain a high velocity when I jump peek. And that way I can get a lot faster peek, and it just helps a lot more when I'm peeking with an AWP. But I think that's all I really want to go through today in terms of peeking. There's a lot more you can go in depth with crosshair placement, how to pre-aim angles. But that's mainly something you're going to learn through from experience, and not something I can really teach you or explain to you in a video. Thank you guys for watching. It's been a pleasure. Peace.